Good morning, boys and girls. It's so nice out today that I figured I'd sit outside and read chapter 4 of Rump, Red and Her Grandmother. I lay on the ground, still dead as a chicken, and looked up at Red. Pixies don't attack like that unless your pockets are full of gold, said Red. Did you steal some? No, I said, scrambling to my feet. I brushed off the dirt and backed away a little. Even though Red never made fun of me, she still made me nervous. Once a boy teased Red about her name, and she punched him in the nose so hard her name was running down his face. That's when everyone understood her destiny. It's not going to hit you, she said, as if she could read my mind. What are you doing in the woods? Just thinking, I said. I wanted to ask her the same question, but suddenly Red stepped forward and pointed to my neck. They bit you, she said with a suspicious glare. Pixies don't bug you unless you're near gold. They definitely don't bite unless you have gold. Lots of it. Suddenly, I became aware of the throbbing pain all over me. 4 of my fingers looked like sausages. A big lump was growing out of my arm, and my shirt collar tightened around my swelling neck. Red was right. I'd never known a pixie to bite unless you were holding a big chunk of gold. But I didn't have any. I turned out my pockets and held out my hands to show Red. How did you get rid of the pixies? I asked. She held up her fists and dropped the dirt in them. Pixies hate to be dirty. They like to stay shiny. I would keep a pot of dirt by my bed and by the fireplace. With the way they just attacked me, maybe I would carry a bag of dirt with me everywhere. The village bell began to chime, making us both jump. Baby's been born, said Red. Yes, I said. Soon a gnome would run throughout the village announcing the baby's name. After the name was spread, the villagers would talk all day about the quality of the name, the length, and the sounds. They'd discuss what kind of destiny the name would bestow upon the child. I hate that bell, said Red. Me too. And I hate gnomes. Me too. In my head, I always imagined the bell ringing and the gnome shouting, Rump, Rump, the new boy's name is Rump. I wondered if Red had those same thoughts about her name. Even though it wasn't embarrassing, it made her different. Maybe we both were lonely because of our names. Why do we just name babies? I suddenly asked. What do you mean? Why don't we give a name to the mountain or the kingdom or roads and animals or even the woods? Red looked at me funny. Those things don't need names, she said. Everybody knows that. Names hold power, and that power shouldn't be wasted on something that isn't living. A village doesn't need a destiny, but sometimes places feel alive. Sometimes they feel powerful, like they could have a destiny, just like people. Like these trees, they feel alive. They are alive, said Red, but that doesn't mean they need a name. They don't have a destiny like we do. Well, what about the village? Wouldn't it be nice to give our village a good name, like Asteria or Hurtliff? That way, if you wanted to go on an adventure, you could say, I'm leaving Asteria at last. Or if you were coming home, you could say, Hurtliff, my home. It would be like greeting a long-lost friend instead of a mountain full of metal or just dirt. And maybe it would have a destiny then. That's the craziest thing I ever heard, said Red, but she was also smiling. We heard the gnomes in the distance shouting something in their gravelly little voices. Finally, a gnome ran right past us. Furball! The name of the new daughter is Furball! Furball! Red and I stared at each other. Then we burst out laughing. We laughed and curled over our stomachs. We laughed until tears were streaming from our eyes. But then something appeared from the darkness of the trees and loomed over Red. I stopped laughing. Red still giggled until a thin, knobbly hand touched her shoulder. Red looked up and squealed, Granny! She looked around nervously, as if to see who else was watching. What are you doing here? I'll go where I please, girl. Her voice was remarkably steady, even though she looked ancient. Her cheeks sagged past her jaw, and she was hunched over on a gnarled stick that shook under her hand. But, hold your butt. What's so hilarious? Nothing, said Red, She nudged me while keeping wide eyes on her granny. Nothing at all, my voice squealed. Red's granny squinted at me. You're Elsbeth's boy. I'm her grandson. Well, how is she? A crabby old wretch still, no doubt. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am, she's fine. You're the one with only half your name. I shuffled my feet and glanced at Red. Oh, stop your worry prancing. Red already knows. She won't tell. How did they know? Gran had told me never to tell anyone that Rump wasn't my whole name. Some people might think a half a name would make a half a person addled in the brain, or even dangerous. Red's granny leaned down close to me. She had a strong but not unpleasant smell, like fresh things that grow in the earth. She said, staring into my eyes. You'll find it all. What all? Your name, all of it. I will? Red's granny suddenly looked very wise, maybe even less crouched and wrinkly. Not before you cause a heap of trouble, though, and you have to find your destiny first. But I thought my name was my destiny. No, other way around. Find your destiny, you find your name. It's right under your feet. I looked under my feet. Just dirt. My brain felt all tangled. Red's granny came even closer and hunched over so her face was level with mine. It felt like she was looking through me and around me and beyond me all at once. One more thing. She pointed her gnarled finger at me. Watch your step. What step? The old woman ignored my question and looked between Red and me. And just what were you two hee-hawing about? Nothing, Red and I insisted for the second time. Oh, it's not nothing. That new baby's name is funny to you, isn't it? Well, I wouldn't think either of you would have the right to laugh at such a name. Don't we have more right than anyone? I asked. Ouch! Red dug her heel into my foot, but her granny's mouth twitched into a half smile. For someone with half a name, you're pretty smart, she said. Red's granny. Give Elsbeth my warm regards, crabby old wretch. I stared after the old woman as she hobbled away and disappeared into the trees. Your granny's strange. Red turned red all over and stamped her heel into my other foot. She is not. She marched off, kicking up dirt that flew in my face. At least I was safe from another pixie attack. At home, I told Gran that Red's granny sent her warm regards, but left out the crabby old wretch part. Humph, said Gran. Crabby old wretch. Maybe all old women think that about each other. I lay awake that night for a long time. The old woman's words kept poking at my brain, refusing to let me sleep. She said I would find all of my name. How? I forgot to ask her how. Then she said I would cause a lot of trouble. How? She also told me to watch my step. Well, that was probably just general advice. I was always tripping. But the words that kept running through my mind over and over. Find your destiny and find your name. Where? Where was it? For some reason, I kept looking at the spinning wheel. It sat in the shaft of moonlight, still just biding its time, waiting for me to spin. And that is the conclusion of chapter 4. See you guys tomorrow.